Hey, Nerd Herd, Dynasty Nerds here, back again, kicking off our 2021 rookie running back breakdowns. We're going to kick it off with the guys like Najee Harris. Talk about why you like him.
Yeah.
Talk about maybe a guy that might be a running back, might be a receiver.
Ooh.
Possibly. And we're also even going to talk about a turd Ferguson. Make sure you get down here, check him out, hit that like button, subscribe button for all our rookie content coming up. Let's dive in and kick off our 2021 rookie running backs.
Ready, set, hut, hut. Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Rich Dotson, here, my fellow nerds.
Matt O'Hara.
Yeah, that's him.
And I'm Garrett Price. You were going back to the old intro, weren't you?
I know.
I caught myself.
I was going to let you do it, and then that's where the hesitation.
Throwback.
came. Yep.
Trying to be professional here, guys.
Yep.
Trying to run a professional show here. I got a lot to talk about today. We're breaking into the 2021 rookie running backs. There's so much to talk about because there is, there's a tier 1 here, and then tier 2 is kind of nice, so far. Like tier 2 is a nice, I will say this. I feel so far outside the top 3, there'll be 2 guys that find fantasy success out of that group that will become like the James Robinson guy that you would like to have on your roster. And it's like, who's that guy going to be? We're going to talk about a couple guys today.
Yep.
They have that opportunity. Today, we're going to be talking about Najee Harris. We're going to be talking about Jermar Jefferson, Rhamondre Stevenson, Demetric Felton, Elijah Mitchell, and Chris Evans on this show. On the Nerd Herd show, if you're not a Nerd Herd member, you're going to be missing out us talking about Javonte Williams.
Ooh.
Don't miss
We'll
him.
talk about him in a second here, though. Kylan Hill, Trey Sermon, Jarrett Patterson, Raheem Boyd, and Trey Regis. So we got a lot to talk about in these next 2 shows. We'll be back next week covering last half of the running backs before we get into the 2021 receivers. Yep. And then we'll be into the NFL draft, and then we'll be ranking these guys, holding mock drafts.
Because there'll be people this week who'll be like, well, what about Kenneth Gainwell? What about Travis Etienne? Yeah, those are
Big fans.
Those
Big
are next
fans.
week.
Big fans of both those guys. Yeah. Michael Carter, another UNC running back.
There we go.
Very
Next week.
solid guy. A little bit more agile than Javonte Williams.
Little
possibly.
guy, super fast.
Super fast, little guy. So a lot to talk about. Before we get into that, I want to tell you guys about one of our sponsors. So this is a great new sponsor. I'm loving to have these guys aboard. That's Dynasty Depot. That's right, Dynasty Depot right now. They're running a great promo that you can get their whole package for $14.99 with that promo code NERDS. And what is Dynasty Depot? Dynasty Depot is like eBay for Dynasty teams, right? It gives you an opportunity to buy an FFPC team, either that one that's already established at a higher rate or one that needs rebuilt at a lower rate. It gives you an opportunity to go on to FFPC, draft some Dynasty teams, and sell them for a profit. It's an opportunity to flip Dynasty teams for a profit. It also gives you an opportunity to win a lot of prizes, opportunity to win into the FFP high stakes league, which is a free entry if you win your leaderboard, which everybody has an opportunity to at dynastydepot.com right now. And again, what I love about Dynasty Depot is it encourages the growth of Dynasty. It allows you to draft a Dynasty team. If your skill set is drafting Dynasty startups, then there's an opportunity to make money at dynastydepot.com. If your skill set is rebuilding teams, like you're really good at making trades and finding value where it lies, you can make profit at dynastydepot.com. If you're just looking to get into more Dynasty leagues, if you don't care about any of that and you don't want to sell a team for the future, but you just want to get to
I just want to play, man.
a format where a league is never folded ever, and that's the FFPC, which holds high stakes leagues, the Dynasty Depot for you. Right now, you can join the Dynasty Depot with the promo code NERDS for $14.99 for the year, and you can get in there and dabble and look at all these Dynasty teams and find the perfect team for you. So check them out today, dynastydepot.com. I love it. I'm on there. I'm going to try and build some teams and make some profit because, my talent is just endless.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yep.
It's on you right now.
We know.
You see it? There it is.
Feel it.
Don't tell your wife. And check them out, dynastydepot.com, promo code NERDS. So now, as we get into the running backs here, let's start with this.
Okay.
Matt, who are your top 3 running backs right now? Way too early. Way too early.
In order.
In
At least
order.
a week too early.
Top 3.
Top 3.
Let me put it this way. There's a clear-cut top 3 amongst the industry and I think amongst us.
Sure.
Which is going to consume Najee Harris.
They're going to consume them?
It's going to consist of
Najee Harris. People are consuming this right now.
They are.
Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne. Matt, give me those three in order right now.
I'm leaning right now. I'm going Javonte Williams, number one. I haven't watched quite enough tape of Travis Etienne, but I'm actually, the little bit that I have watched, I've liked more than I thought I would. So I might actually be leaning him number two and then Najee number three, but they're really close right now. I have to dig in a little bit more on Travis Etienne before that solidifies.
Pussyfoot Price.
I've been talking about him for a little while, but Javonte is my top guy as well. I've actually got Najee just a hair above Etienne at the moment.
And Garrett backs us up because he just took Javonte in the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Rookie Mock Draft. Number one. Put my money where my mouth is. And I have it ranked Najee Harris number one, Travis Etienne number two, and Javonte Williams number three.
At the bottom.
Which, again, to be fair, I love all three. Right. So when you host a podcast, you own a website, you do rankings. Unfortunately, you have to put these people in order. It's simple to take the way out and just put tiers out there, right?
Sure.
But when you're drafting, you don't want tiers. You want who would you take, Rich, if the gun was to your head? So as of today, the NFL draft can change this because a lot of these guys, if they're in the wrong system, the wrong scheme, it might not work. Like I would love Najee on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would love Travis Etienne on the New York Jets, right? So I would love Javonte Williams on the Atlanta Falcons.
But you wouldn't like them flip-flopped, right? I mean, if you flip-flop the Najee and Etienne at the Jets and the Steelers destinations.
Well, to be fair, I like Najee everywhere.
Okay.
He's kind of like me on Garrett.
All right.
He's everywhere. So that's just my opinion. I just think
okay.
We're going to talk about him first here.
Yeah,
so
we're going to get into
it. But that's my order. So obviously we have a lot to talk about here. There's a lot of other running backs here that we like as well, and some we like and some we don't like, and we'll talk about all their strengths and weaknesses. And of course, we encourage all our listeners, get into DynastyNerds.com, get in that film room and look at what we're looking at, right? We got some all 22 in there. We got a lot of film in there. So make sure you get into DynastyNerds.com, check out the Dynasty Nerds film room, look at what we're looking at, see what we missed. Let us know on Twitter, leave comments on YouTube. Let us know what's going on here. So make sure you hit that like, subscribe button as well to let us know what you see and maybe where we missed something, because that's what I love to do. I love to take your guys' opinion. I let your guys help mold my opinions as well, and other trusted scouts that I trust as well. So let's dive into it right off the bat with Najee Harris, running back out of Alabama, 6'2", 230 pounds. This guy is a big time runner, right? This guy is just a big guy, but who's also very agile and a very good pass catcher. I remember when we were scouting running backs last year before Najee decided to go back, we were watching film. We're like, wow, Najee really impresses me in his passing game. That's one of the things I saw out of there, impressed me. And he comes back in 2020 and expands on that exponentially, right? He gets even more involved in the passing game. He's one of the biggest running backs in this class, a guy who never puts the ball on the ground. This is a guy who made a ton of people miss out there at Alabama. I know some of you guys have some concerns about Najee. I know that as well. But for me, I saw a guy that is just that big physical running back who is very, very viable in the passing game. So when I look at these running backs, again, all these running backs, what I'm looking at is how can they help my dynasty team, right? I'm not looking at how they're going to be NFL running backs. There's a lot of running backs. That's why I hate on Derrick Henry early on is, hey, this guy can help an NFL team. There's a couple of running backs we're going to talk about today that I think can help NFL teams, but I don't look at them as viable NFL or dynasty fantasy football running backs. So when I look at Najee Harris, I see the upside of him being a high-end running back one, but I also see the floor of just a very safe running back, right? He's going to help you in the PPR game. Yeah. He's going to get you first downs. He's going to be physical. I mean, he's got all the right abilities to be an inside and outside runner.
He definitely has all the right pieces. Some of the concerns that I have that I saw on tape was he has a tendency to run high, which kind of takes away some of the power that you would think you would get out of a 230-pound back. I see him getting pushed backwards and taken down on some plays with some smaller, either linebackers or defensive backs that I think he should be able to take those guys on. And if he could lower the shoulder a little bit more, I think that would help. But I think that something that goes into that is I don't know if his hips are too tight a little bit or something. But he just doesn't move laterally, I think, in a smooth manner. He can do it and get going, but there's times where I saw him almost completely have to stop to change directions.
Yeah, his acceleration, the way he accelerates out of his cuts, isn't he's not very explosive.
He's a little herky-jerky almost when he's doing some of the open field stuff. So I just have some concerns in those areas. And like you said, his passing game chops have gotten exponentially better. He went from 6 catches to 4 catches to 27 catches to 43 this past year. So I know, and he looks natural doing it. They even split him out wide at some points, and he ran like little in slanting passes and stuff like that, or in slanting routes. So there is a fantasy football, I think, floor for him, and that is the one thing that I like about him, because he can get involved down at the goal line. I think because he's big enough, he can do that kind of stuff. He can be involved in the passing game, and he's an in between the tackle type of guy. I love him when he's not asked to dance and move around too much in the hole. If he sees a hole and he's just going straight ahead, he looks fantastic. He's got great burst going in a straight line. So if he gets into the right offense, I could see him actually leapfrogging and getting into that second spot for me. But from what I've seen so far on tape, and I still have more to do, admittedly, I'm gonna watch every one of these games that I possibly can out of these top 3 to kind of really sift through the weeds. But I just don't. From the early tape evaluation, I just don't see the same kind of stuff that I see from Javonte Williams.
Yeah, I saw a guy with his size. Like, I can't really impress how big he is, right? We're talking about a guy who's 6'2", 230 pounds. And you mentioned, I do have some concerns about the way, he gets in and out of his cuts. But for a guy of his size, he has a really nice jump cut, right? I saw him hurdle a couple guys multiple times, so he's really good athletically there. Again, the way he could change direction for a guy of his size is really nice as well. It's just his speed's not there. Like,
his top end speed.
Some of that, there's a lot of comps to a lot of his negative comps are close to Javonte Williams comps for me. Like, if I'm looking at their negatives, right? Him and Javonte Williams are close with their negatives, I guess, for me. It's just Najee's a better pass catcher than Javonte Williams in my eyes.
I do agree. I think that is definitely Najee's best attribute is his receiving ability, especially at that frame. It's really impressive to see him do that. But as I've mentioned on the show a couple times, and I've mentioned on Twitter, that's one thing that has lowered for me in my importance is, if they're a good pass catcher, that's awesome, but it's really just become a pass fail for me. We saw it last year. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the best in the class. Josh Jacobs the year before. They were the 2 best, and they just haven't been used that way. Jonathan Taylor and James Robinson weren't super great. Catch tons of passes. So it's really just become more of a pass fail for me. And clearly he passes with flying colors. He's one of the better ones in the class. But that's lowered on its level of importance for me. We also have to remember he's running behind, a really good offensive line. I think he hit most of the holes that you would expect him to hit. There were times that I saw him miss a few, and everyone's going to miss a few. So that is going to happen. But there were a lot of wide open holes. Matt, I agree with you. I do think he is a little bit upright. I think I like his feet a little bit better than you. I think his feet are pretty good overall, but it's the burst that I have some concerns with. I don't think he's overly bursty of a player. And so, a lot of the comps are like, okay, well, he's going to be Derrick Henry with pass catching. The hard part is he's not as fast. He's not as strong. He's there's just a lot of those kinds of things. But I do agree with the point that I think you both made this point. I think he's very safe. I don't see a world where he's not an RB2. That world just doesn't exist. He's going to be an RB2 no matter what. Ceiling, I think he could be a low-end RB1. I just don't see him as that, oh my goodness, Saquon Barkley. Oh my goodness.
Definitely not.
I don't see him in that type of stratosphere for me personally.
Well, to be fair, those guys are few and far between.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Those guys don't come. I think over the last couple of years, we've been somewhat spoiled as well with some of the guys that come out here. You know what I mean? When you get to Saquon's, when you get to the DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor's guys along those lines as well. There's none of those guys in this class, I guess, essentially. But there's they're very, very good running backs. And you mentioned his feet. I love Najee Harris in the short. Javonte Williams has much better burst, right? But they both get there differently. I feel Najee Harris and Javonte Williams. Javonte has that one cut and he gets that burst and he's up there, but then that's it because he doesn't have those big runs either. And I know, Najee, to be fair, Najee doesn't have these big runs as well.
Yeah, neither one of them are breaking off 60-yard runs.
They don't have that high-end speed. That's why I love and that's why Travis Etienne fell to my number 2 because he offers that big play.
And that's why he's up to my number 2
fantasy football relevance. You know what I mean? It's almost sometimes I feel okay, is Travis Etienne getting the DeAndre Swift treatment, right? Is where
we've seen him too long.
Yeah, where DeAndre Swift was the one guy all the way through, and then all of a sudden the draft comes and he falls down a little bit because we fall in love with these other guys, and here we are 12 months later, and everybody wants DeAndre Swift again, right? Does Travis Etienne get some of that treatment? Because I guess his tape wasn't as great as 2019 and 2020, but again, it was 2020. It was a different year.
It was,
so it's a little bit harder to go there. So.
And their offensive line wasn't as good this past season as
the
year before as well. So, there was a lot of things that went into that.
What I like about Najee is just he offers so much on the inside, on the outside, on the pass catchability. He could pass protect. And like you said, so for you, it's pass fail on the pass catching skill set. But I just don't go that. I don't go that way with it as well because I like to see if that running back can run routes. Right? There's a couple of guys in here that have some pass. We're going to talk about that. We're able to catch the football, but all their passes were dump-off plays. I can't remember what running back it is. It's my notes, but all his receptions were off dump-off plays. When I watch, or little wheel routes.
Or there's some that just didn't catch any passes.
0.0.
There's one.
But when you watch Najee, he kind of excelled a little bit where he was actually will run some routes, right? He was catching the ball away from his body. He was able to adjust.
He's very good. I'm
the
totally
pass
with
protection. He's going to have high draft pedigree as well, which I always contribute as well because I do look at Javonte Williams and Najee Harris as first contract running backs. I do look at them both high-end running backs, but both first contract running backs, which means after that first contract, like most running backs, I'm trying to get out at right around year 4 when the value's super high and reinvest. So I look at Najee Harris. To me, we mentioned a safe floor, which is always nice to have, but he offers that ability to be that high-end running back one as well. Because I think that PPR game does expand in him being a high-end running back.
One thing I do want to give Najee some credit for, because I felt like I kind of had to play the negative role because I have Javonte over him. But one thing I do want to give him credit for, I remember watching his 2019 tape and seeing hardly any burst at all, and seeing not I wasn't impressed with the speed at all. You can tell that guy put in the work, because even though I still don't think his burst is special in any way, it's significantly better than I thought it was as a junior. So you can tell that he put in the work. Everything that we're hearing from a character standpoint is, they speak volumes of him. Even when Jared and I were watching him at the Senior Bowl, he was a guy that was a real fun-loving guy, and everybody was, you could tell everybody was drawn to him. Even the coaches were drawn to him, obviously. Right. So
Miami Dolphins.
Miami Dolphins, yeah. Cough, cough.
Have you guys watched any of his interviews? Post-game interviews, any press conferences? The
one after Ohio State game was funny.
Oh, he's hilarious.
Yeah, he's a funny dude.
He's a very marketable guy.
And you mentioned Team Guy just yesterday. Najee Harris, there was a lightning storm in Dallas, so his plane flight got canceled for the Alabama Pro Day. So he drove 9 hours today to the Pro Day. He just wanted to be there to support his teammates. He wasn't even running. He wasn't doing any drills or things. So that's the kind of guy Najee is.
Yep.
And again, that's character means some things as well.
It absolutely does.
A big time running back at Alabama. Alabama's pushing out dynasty talent left and right. It's a high pedigree guy that does everything.
Yeah, number one guy in his class coming out.
And he does everything well. I guess, is that a good way to describe Najee? He does everything pretty much well that you want out of a running back. He does
most things well.
You have your concerns, but in my eyes, he does everything pretty well. I think he's good enough in the open field. I love his short area quickness as well. The burst is in there, but he uses his feet really well to find the lanes and get out there and make people miss and bounce people off him because he does have the size. And again, I love his pass catching ability. This is a guy that I can envision averaging over 4 yards per carry in the NFL, being a team's number 1 3-down workhorse back, which again, that itself is, if you can find those kind of guys worth its weight in gold, because that's going to be Etienne's biggest question mark. Will he be the 3-down kind of back?
Which is hilarious, because his questions early on in his career were, could he catch the ball?
Could he catch?
And then it's completely flipped.
Right. So he worked a lot on that. Yeah, he looks a lot better.
And I love that as well. So my biggest worry again is going to come back to is am I going to give Travis Etienne the DeAndre Swift treatment? Because last year I had Etienne ahead of Najee Harris. This year I have Najee Harris ahead of.
I had Etienne ahead of him too.
So Najee Harris. So we all like him.
Yep.
He offers a very safe floor, and he's definitely a top, let's say, 1 QB. He's locked in as a top 3 rookie pick for you guys.
Yeah, I can't see myself at this point. As much as I love Devonta Smith, I think Jamar Chase is really good too. Especially with how tough it is to get those running backs anytime other than my rookie draft, I can't see me walking away with a top 3 pick and not taking one of those.
And how
guys.
deep this class is at receiver.
Super
where if you
deep.
have 1, 1, 1, 2, you're going to get a solid receiver at 1, 3.
5 weeks on the wide receiver class.
Right. It's going to be a while.
It's really deep.
The NFL draft is going to be going on, and we're going to be talking about wide receivers. Yeah.
He's wide receiver 39 in the class. Wow.
I mean, there's a guy who's 5'6" that measured 5'6" today. That's going to be a first round pick because he's so damn explosive and so talented.
Wow, you're okay with 5'6" there, but another guy I talked about earlier, you didn't like 5'6". Right.
Yeah, there's a difference between being a wide receiver that can run a 4.29 and a running back out of Buffalo. I'm sorry. Way big difference. So
I think it's easier to get away with being a small running back.
I do as well.
Yeah, whatever.
You get hidden behind that line.
Does he run a 4.29?
He ran a 4.4.
Does he have a super big vertical with money hands?
He's running
well,
back.
who knows about his hands because he never caught a pass.
We'll get to him in his 0.0 catches.
He's not even in the show. He's in the next show.
He's in the next show. We'll talk about him then.
Tune into that Nerd Herd episode.
Dude, this Nerd Herd episode is going to be good as well.
It's going to be good. It's going to get.
Pay the $3 just to get this month's round of episodes here for the podcast. Let's go on to another running back, shall we?
Yep.
Jermar Jefferson out of Oregon State. 5'9", 210 pounds. This is a guy, when you're looking for a consistent running back, Jermar Jefferson's your guy, right? This is a guy who averaged 108 yards per game throughout his career, and he was on a team that was terrible, right? They had 9 wins in just 3 years there. Oof. That's it. And this is a guy who, out of 27 games, 15 of them, he had over 100 yards. So he's Mr. Consistent. This guy is just a giant powerhouse of a running back at 5'9", 200 pounds with really good feet. Again, the burst isn't really there for him as well. He's not that
super quick twitch.
He's not he's not a smooth kind of guy, but he's a powerful guy there. And again, he was on a really bad team, but he changes directions for a guy who runs so powerful. Like he's a very smooth runner there. The kind of guy you're going to get in there and just kind of like just pound the rock with, right? Jermar Jefferson, get in there, pound the rock with. He's somebody who, when he gets in the field, open field, he can make people miss. He's good enough there. There's times where, like, though, if you did get your hands on him for being a big, powerful guy, like, he wasn't hard to bring down, is what I saw. So, like, some of my negatives was, like, for how powerful a runner, like, 5'9", 209, like, when you got your hands on him, like, he went down pretty easy.
I was going to say, I didn't think he was all that powerful. I think he could be an in-between-the-tackle type of guy. This is a guy that I struggle with because he offers little to nothing in the passing game. He looks very awkward catching the ball. Both times I saw him catching passes, he was like falling over doing it. So I'm not sure where this guy's fantasy relevance is going to actually be because I'm not sure he's big enough to be an every down back. And if he's not going to catch passes, he offers no
viable, because even when he was using the passing game, which was very, very limited, if I saw him get used in the passing game, oh, look, he's being used in the passing game. It was all like screens in the flat, wheel routes. And he goes back to that guy.
I think he gets up to his top speed pretty quickly, but he's not like overly fast. So he's not going to break off big runs. He's like, I'm struggling to find where he's going to win for fantasy football. And he doesn't seem to be checking any of these boxes that are going to get him into a lineup as anything more than like a bye-week fill-in type of guy. And I'm not even sure that that's going to work.
Yeah. Watching him now, I'm going to go backtrack just a second because I forgot to mention it. So Najee Harris, we do our nerd score, and that's something that myself and Jared and a few others, we work on very diligently over the course of the season. And so we watch, as many plays as we can. We categorize all these different things from vision to elusiveness to ability to break tackles, pass blocking, all these things. Najee Harris for me came in at a 74.53. So if you want the full nerd score, you can subscribe at dynastynerds.com. But my personal nerd score for him was 74.53, which is the second highest running back score. Jermar Jefferson, getting back to who we're on, I struggle with him. I ended up with a 71.93, which was actually pretty high, higher than I thought I was going to be on him. It is interesting, though, because I do agree with you, Matt. I think there's a lot of things that are good. I think he has good vision.
Yeah,
I think
he
has
like
a
vision. Yeah.
Very good feel for finding the open gaps, finding those seams, and be able. And he widens really well. He has a good feel for the flow of the defense. There was a lot of things that I really liked there, but his pass protection was pretty concerning for me.
Bad. It was bad.
And that's something that if you're not an elite running back, you need to be able to do those little things. It did not look very good to me. And even his technique wasn't good. Like sometimes you can see guys just aren't strong enough yet.
Sure.
It was like technique and he just didn't have a lot of pop.
Just never got to the spot where he was needing to be and stuff like
Yep, exactly. I'm with you. Very, very mediocre in the passing game. Pretty mediocre strength. But I do think because there's enough vision and enough for a feel, I do think he is going to be on a roster. I do think he's going to be one of the better second tier guys that we have here. But I think just the second tier is just going to be, like maybe one or two guys could kind of emerge out of it. But it's really hard to say yes, this guy will absolutely emerge. Like for me right now, it's those top three. Kenneth Gainwell's kind of got his own little tier, and then it's like everybody else.
Yeah, I think Kenneth Gainwell's got his own tier. I like Michael Carter a little bit better than here. There's another guy we're talking about here that I like a little bit. There's a lot of guys I actually like more than Jermar Jefferson, because Jermar Jefferson, like you said, good vision, really good patience, but he's going to be scheme dependent, right? Like he's going to be that outside zone New York Jet. Like he's
always trying to get it to the outside. That's like where he's got good vision, but you can tell that's where he's most comfortable. Mm-hmm. He's trying to break it out there. He's not trying to weave in and out all that traffic. He's trying to get to an open spot.
He's gonna be good paired up with a good pass catcher running back, right? Like he'd be really good with he'd have some relevance. Like again, go to the Jets and their scheme, the new scheme that you see they're gonna run. Obviously, San Francisco, he'd have some success there being an outside zone runner with paired up with a pass catcher running back. So he's gonna be limited there, and you'd be dependent on yards and touchdowns.
I think it was Tyler Gunther, and I could be wrong, but I believe I'm not a huge comp guy, but sometimes I see certain comps and I'm like, actually, that's a really good comp. Like, I agree with that. He said, tell me why Jermar Jefferson isn't Marlon Mack. And I was like, yeah, he reminds me a lot of Marlon Mack. There's not an overly special trait, but he has good enough burst, good enough speed, good enough vision that he can make it work with a good offensive line.
Sure. And Marlon Mack also doesn't catch passes, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Isn't Marlon Mack bigger than him, though?
Not really.
Not much, I don't think. I'd have to go back and look, but
he's 205, 210, somewhere right around there.
Yeah,
215
I had Jefferson's weight is 215.
Yeah,
that's what I have it here. Oh,
okay. I thought you said 200 earlier.
I said 210. That's what I said, but it's pretty close. So, there's definitely some holes here. Pass protection, not hard to bring down. I mean, it's just his contact balance is just subpar.
His contact balance is subpar.
Which when you're a running back, it's not what you want, right? That was what's his face from Tampa Bay.
Ronald Jones.
His biggest, his contact balance was no bueno. And again, in his pass catching ability is terrible. So Jermar Jefferson, scheme dependent. Mostly for me is he falls into the line of mid third round pick. I'd more so want Jermar Jefferson if I already have the other running back on the team that he goes to. You know what I mean? If I can get him there in the third round, a pair up in the third round, kind of a safety, I could see him being
a safety net type of guy, just in case your starting running back gets injured on that team, and you can have him for those weeks while he's starting.
I can envision Jermar Jefferson getting a couple spot starts here and there and be used in the NFL, but that's it. He's never to me going to be an everyday down running back.
I agree with that.
Yep. So you mentioned tier 1, tier 2, then everybody else. I think there's a tier 1, then a tier 2. And then a tier 3 almost.
Sure, I'm fine with that.
And he's mid-range tier 3, I guess, even around there. So
basically, my tier 3, there is a tier 4, but tier 4 is I'm not even going to talk or look at you. But tier 3 is I'm going to have 15 names in it. It's going to be massive, just because I think there's a lot of
there's a lot of
4th through 6th round guys that I think could potentially pan out, but trying to pick who that guy is going to be really tough.
The last thing I'll say about Jermar Jefferson for me, when I came away with my final takeaway was okay, if he could land in the right system, if he could land in, like I mentioned, the New York Jets, the San Francisco 49ers, or anybody that runs that outside zone scheme right along there, I can envision him having fantasy football flex relevance in that system only. So in that scenario, I can envision him having some fantasy football relevance, but only it's a very limited window. So because that's the thing. If he goes in that kind of system, I could see me taking him at the back end of the second round if I need running back help from that point. If he does not, he's just paired up in where he has no lot of opportunity, and it is what it is. Because there's nothing special about him, but he has a skill set to fit the right scheme to give you some flex relevance. I guess if I want to talk upside on player, because a lot of times if I can, I want to talk about some dynasty upside here, why you should draft him. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And there's some players who will say don't draft here. But Jermar Jefferson, at least, because we talked a lot of bad about him, there's some upside here for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I ended up with a score of 71. Like that's a potential flex-worthy player.
And I agree to the point that you made about, I think he's going to be on an NFL roster. I think he's going to have a shot.
Yeah, he's going to be backup for a long time.
I just don't think he's going to find his way into a starting lineup
Probably not.
For any extended period of time to help you from a fantasy perspective. That's where I fall out on this guy.
Let's move on. Rhamondre Stevenson. Rhamondre Stevenson out of Oklahoma.
Rhamondre Tuesday.
Rhamondre. I'm sorry, Rhamondre. Rhamondre Stevenson. I want to get it right so bad that I messed it up.
You screwed it up. That's all right.
Rhamondre Stevenson, Oklahoma, 6 foot, 227 pounds. This is a guy that maybe you didn't see a ton of because he only got 665 carries at Oklahoma. Didn't get a lot of wear and tear there, but this is a guy that that's somebody that comes in here not very used a lot. Well, with 165 carries,
he was a JUCO guy, right?
Yeah. He was a JUCO guy. He also had some like off the field stuff,
right.
With some. I believe it was weed.
It was weed. He got. It was 2019, the Peach Bowl or whatever bowl game. He got busted with a couple of other guys, so he missed that game and then the first 5 games of 2020 for the weed.
When I came with him, he's like, I just saw him. I was like, he's a north-south runner, right? And that's it. I didn't see a lot of things out of him that like I overly love. Like his speed, like when I saw him run,
there isn't top end speed.
If he got behind the defense whatsoever, he got tracked down every single time.
That's the thing. He moves laterally well, and I think he can navigate through the line pretty decently. For a big guy, I think he can get through some nice little crevices. But it's the top end speed, it's the burst are the things that Rhamondre Stevenson is missing. I liked him. I liked him on tape. I thought he was a pretty elusive guy. I mean, he's very nimble for how big he is. But again, it's one of these things. How is he going to help you? Is he going to be just a short yardage type of guy? Is he ever going to land in a spot where he eventually could take over a starting spot? I'm not really sure. So this guy is definitely. I think he's intriguing. I think if he lands in a spot on a team where, hey, he could get a ton of volume, then he could be fantasy relevant. I think he's a volume dependent type of back that's gonna, in 6 games he caught 18 passes. So I mean, it's not like he can't catch passes.
A lot of screen passes.
Right. He's gonna get you the dump offs and screens and stuff like that.
I'd be shocked if he was used that way at all at the next level, though.
I know, I agree, but from your pass fail, type of scenario, he's capable.
Yes, I agree.
So I don't know. Rhamondre Stevenson is at least interesting if he lands in a Seattle type of situation or a New England type of situation.
A one cut north south, like that, like one cut north south, get upfield, that kind of system. That's all I can envision for success. But there's just a lot of things I didn't like. The size was there. You know what I mean?
Well, and that was those were the only grades for me that ended up being like, ooh, those were good scores. Were in the tackle breaking because he does break quite a few tackles. He got an 8.5 for me.
And I think he breaks tackles because he's never taking the full blunt hit. You know what I mean? He has just enough shiftiness to just take glancing blows, which is a good quality in a running back. And that's one of the things that I kind of liked about him.
We were like a little worried about like his vision and way like he saw things. Like he'd be like, oh, dude, like if you just take one little cut here, you get an extra 3 yards right there. You're like, dude, it's right there, and like he would just miss it. And again, maybe it is because it's that one. Maybe he's a little tight in the hips, possibly as well. For being that big, but
I think the path for relevancy for him is if he can be, 2015 LeGarrette Blount or whatever year that was where it was just like
18 touchdowns,
goal line battering ram.
Yeah.
I think that's the path for him to be relevant on a team, because outside of that, that's really like the only scores that I was able to say confidently like we're above average. We're just in the physical nature of the game. Everything else was at or a little bit below average.
Keep him inside the hashes.
Yep,
that's it. Like if you try to use him anywhere, I feel like if you try to use Rhamondre anywhere outside the hashes, you're gonna get nothing out of him. If you can get him,
he's not fast enough to get
inside,
out there. Yeah,
and you go to a team with a good offensive line, then he'll do well.
I will. This is another thing I'll give him credit for. He's clearly been working though, because he was weighing in at 240 pounds during the season. Went down to 227 for the Senior Bowl. Yep. So, I mean, that's a pretty significant. And actually, I heard people say that even 240 was being generous. Like, he was actually pushing 250.
He looked big.
Wow.
So
he looked big on
He
tape,
cut some weight for the Senior Bowl. And I do like when I hear that running backs have really put in that work to try to increase their draft stock and things like that. But you do have like the yellow flags with some of the off the field stuff.
And I think at his pro day he ran a 4.63. So I mean that
sounds about right.
It sounds about right. It's one of those things where it's passable.
Yeah, I can live with that.
You can live with the 4.63. It's not. You're never going to get an 80-yard run out of this guy ever, unless everyone on defense fell over.
Unless it's a beast mode situation,
right? Exactly.
Truck everybody.
He falls in that category of like he's the kind of runner that can help an NFL team, but he's not really going to help your dynasty team. Is that the best way to put it? Like he's
probably so,
unless he falls into some very specific
LeGarrette
Bluntish or like a very high volume type of role. I think that's the only way. Or if he, with the weight loss he has, and maybe he has a little bit more burst on tape all of a sudden, and that could help. Who knows?
He did look a little bit faster at the Senior Bowl. I will say, from what I saw on tape to the Senior Bowl, he wasn't like super noticeably slower than everybody
and
else.
We've seen guys do it. I mean, Le'Veon Bell comes to mind. A guy who was 240 pounds in college or right around there and came in, and I think he slimmed down at one point to probably close to 215, 220. So, and with that it came a lot of extra burst and a lot of extra speed. So
and a fantastic pass catcher running back.
Yeah, I think Rhamondre Stevenson Stevenson at least has a little bit of the tools that if he has extra burst, he could be a guy that
he's strong enough.
I think he could be successful.
And to be fair too, like that Le'Veon, in the passing game, a lot of his stuff came off the short, flat screens, wheel routes, like all the same thing. That's where it came through. So now let's move on to a guy that does offer some high upside at the fantasy football running back position, Demetric Felton.
Well, before we do that though, before we go to Felton, we have some very good friends we need to talk about.
We do have some good friends.
We have some good friends we need to talk about, and that's our friends over at PredictionStrike.com. PredictionStrike.com, Rich is cashing all his chips in for Najee Harris, right?
No,
not
good. If I'm going to put my money somewhere, I'm putting my money on Nyheim Hines.
You're putting him on Kyle Pitts, let's be real.
Actually, yeah, I put all my money. All my money is on Kyle Pitts. 100%. I don't care what the stock price is on Kyle Pitts. It's all in.
It's all going up.
I feel like even though we just did tight ends last week, I need to go on another.
You want to go talk about him again?
We'll do that when we do our overall rankings. I have so much more to say about Kyle Pitts.
All right,
why you need him.
But Prediction Strike is the only performance-based stock market where you can buy and sell shares of players just like the real stock market. Last week you talked very eloquently about the stock market, but most of us, we don't know much about the stock market. We don't know how it works. We don't understand the fluctuations in value, but we do understand the fluctuations in value in our dynasty players. This series that we're going through with all our rookies, these are how you find the diamonds in the rough. These are how you find the guys that are your penny stocks. You're basically free. And you know what? Just throw a couple bucks in and maybe they pay off and you make a bunch of money. That's what these kind of shows are for. So if you want to go over to their app, yes, I said app. They have a website, but we all know we're going to use the app. If you want to go over to the app, sign up with the promo code DYNASTY to receive $10 free with your first deposit of $20 or more. That's promo code DYNASTY. Receive $10 free with your first deposit of $20 or more.
Now, can we talk about Demetric Felton?
We can.
So, back to Demetric Felton out of UCLA, 5'9", 189 pounds. This is a guy who's a multi-tool player, right?
Yep.
Is he going to play some receiver? Is he going to play running back? Because he's a former slot receiver. He's only played running back for 2 years there for Chip Kelly. So Chip Kelly has utilized him as a different weapon. You guys saw at the Senior Bowl down there, they actually showed him off, and his route running looked pretty good receiver, there. Right?
Yeah, that's what he played mostly while at the Senior Bowl. Now, they threw him in the backfield a few times and did some things, but yeah, mostly used that. So that's the hard part about this. This guy is like...
This is a very difficult evaluation.
It was kind of like Antonio Gibson last year. Like, we didn't know. Like, I don't even have him on my sheet graded at this point because I don't know if he's a running back or not.
This is a guy, when I watch him, I get excited when he's playing the slot and when he's catching passes. I don't get excited when he's running the ball between the tackles. It doesn't look natural to me. It looks like a guy that definitely played wide receiver for the first 2.5 years of his career and then switched over.
Because you're right, because when he gets the ball in the open field, he has that Deebo Samuel feel. Because now you're like, oh, it's like he's got that running back style like in the open field. Because when he gets the ball in the open field, you're like, oh, this is a guy that can make some moves in the open field. He's got good at, he can make people miss out there.
Pretty good speed.
I understand behind the tackles, not as,
but in between
as
so I would be very surprised at the NFL even come the NFL draft if he gets announced as anything other than a wide receiver. Because I think that's what he's going to be asked to play, but I think he's going to be a multifaceted type of player.
Curtis
Samuel type of guy that can go line up, can take a reverse, can take all that.
As Curtis Samuel.
I don't think he is, but he's that type of player.
He's in that mold, that archetype.
Archetype.
He's shifty in the open field, right? He's the kind of guy that can make a jump cut and lose no speed, right? Like he's a little pinball out there just bouncing around.
And I'll give him credit too for being an undersized guy. I did like the tenacity he attempted to run with in the backfield.
He just has no pad level to get down there and
that's
have
the thing.
Any power.
Oh, you get hit and you're like, little guy, you can't run like that. You're gonna get hurt.
Exactly. So you could see like his legs kept going. He was trying, but there just wasn't much there. And on top of that, Chip Kelly's system running that speed option is not very friendly to running backs to getting a feel for the actual running back position at the next level because most teams are not running that multiple faceted option offense. So it's kind of a weird one to try to transition into. So it would be really tough for somebody that didn't play running back and then goes into a Chip Kelly system to then naturally go into the NFL as a running back.
And you could tell watching him that like if you didn't know that he's only been playing running back for 2 years, you'd watch him play. You'd be like, oh, what is he like? He get the ball and go. Like he showed no patience.
Right.
He wouldn't let his block set up. It's like he get the ball and he's like a receiver, like get the ball and go kind of guy. Yep. So I'm with you. Like I would love to see him in the slot, but then even when you move in the slot, it's like okay, like
is he anything special in the slot?
Is he anything special in the slot? Like you hope.
I think he could be. I think he could be a decent slot wide receiver.
You hope he gets listed on your fantasy league as a running back who always lines up in the slot.
You do. And
that's what you hope for.
That's what you hope for. I think that's his
Danny
best.
Woodhead.
Did you guys happen to read in his bio or find who his favorite player was?
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
I read that Tavon Austin is his favorite player,
favorite
athlete in the NFL, and I just went, "Oh no, this is not what you want to be shooting for, sir."
You want him. You want Demetric Felton with the ball in his hands behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah,
past the line of scrimmage. That's what you want because when you get him, dude, he's got a power for his size. He's got good vision in the open field, and he can move. So I mean, he offers fantasy football upside.
I think he definitely does. There. I think it's just not as a running back. As long as they're not trying to line him up behind center, behind the quarterback and
on a regular basis.
It's too easy to bring. Like if you get your hands on behind the line of scrimmage, he goes down.
He's 189 pounds and he runs upright like a wide receiver. And he almost even when he's attacking holes, the cuts that he makes looks like a wide receiver cutting.
Yeah.
And making breaks and stuff like it. Nothing that he does looks natural as a running back. Everything looks like a guy that's a wide receiver that's playing running back.
Yep.
So what do you think? Third round guy?
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at upside and hoping that he can figure out how to be a Curtis Samuel type player, how to be, some of the stuff Laviska Shenault does. Obviously, Laviska is a much more physical player,
right?
But that same type of like, he's a chess piece, he's a weapon, he's a guy without a true position, but he's gonna make plays. Like that's what you're hoping for.
Touches.
You're just hoping for touches, but the hard part is those guys are notoriously difficult to bank on week in, week out.
Okay.
Definitely. I agree with that.
Yeah, so we're looking at Demetric Felton as a PPR upside running back that you mostly hope gets utilized out of the slot, and you're looking for him to hopefully find a way to find into an offense where he fits that scheme where he's getting 5 to 6 touches a game. Like that's his optimal usage. So he's more of a long shot running back here,
for sure,
but he offers some upside.
Yep.
So to say, more so than some other guys out here because of his former receiving ability.
Right. Like I would probably take him over Stevenson just on the hope that whatever he does hits.
I got you. More upside, more burst there with him.
Because after the second half of the second round, that's all I'm doing is just going for
the PPR guys. Again, because Stevenson offers that more north-south. Like you said, he needs to be in like Seattle. Like his fantasy upside is really like it's a low success rate, I guess, is the best way to say it. Where Demetric actually offers like, okay, he's the kind of guy you might be able to plug in your roster. Like he's on the bottom of your dynasty roster, but like if all your other random backs are in bye and hurt, he's probably going to get you anywhere from 4 to 7 points per game. Like he's going to give you something, hopefully.
If he gets in an offense that has a role for him, he'll have that floor for sure.
I'm not saying he's guaranteed, but if he's in the offense, he's going to get you something where Stevenson's going to get you 2 to 3 points maybe.
Yeah. If you're hoping he falls in the end zone.
And that's a good game. Like, we got 44 yards. I got 4.4 points. Where Demetric can get you 4 catches, 64 yards.
Sure.
On any given day. Any given day.
Sure.
So now here's another running back I find somewhat interesting. Elijah Mitchell out of Louisiana. 5'10", 215 pounds. In Louisiana, he was it's kind of hard when you watch him because they didn't just use Elijah Mitchell. There was 3 running backs here that they like to use. Mm-hmm. But this is a guy who averaged 13.7 touches per game and has a career for 92 yards and a touchdown. That's his career average here. Again, a downhill one-cut runner who had really good size, excellent vision, and really good contact balance. This is a guy that, like, when you watch him run, you're like, okay, I can see some fancy NFL running upside here. This guy, now, again, does he pass your pass catch ability?
Yeah, he does. Absolutely.
So, but he wasn't used like a lot, but when he did get the ball in his hands, he was really good with yards after the catch is what I like there. His route tree was very limited, but again, caught in that train of like very short passes, screens in the flat, tons of that stuff.
Yep.
But what he did though, when I watched him, what I liked about him in his limited ability, where sometimes when you watch these running backs, like, okay, he's catching a lot of these balls, screens, flats. How does he catch it? Like, I saw him make a lot of nice catches. Like, he made multiple catches in games where he would catch the ball away from his body and then get upfield. I like that about him too for a guy of his size. This is a guy who I envision as, like, when I watch Elijah Mitchell, I could see him getting 15 to 20 carries per game and being a solid running back, right? Like, he could be he could be somewhat like a James Robinson-esque kind of guy for me in fantasy football this year. I mean, that one-cut downhill runner who's viable in the passing game, that got his pads down low, and I'm trying to think of other things I saw really nice out of it. His blitz pickup was really nice.
Here's the thing. I think a lot of what you said is true sometimes. And the Elijah Mitchell for me was a little bit of an enigma because I would see something on one play, I would say, where the heck was he looking? I don't think he has a good feel for the field and his vision looks terrible. And the very next play, he's ripping off a nice run and saw a hole, a nice little cutback lane. So I just think consistency was an issue for him. Running with a good pad level consistently was an issue. Some plays he's upright and, on a goal line carry, like he's up too high. It's just like there's some things that he leaves out there that I wish he did a little bit better.
Well, one of the things that we do is we actually separate out patience and vision in our scores. He didn't have a very good vision score for me. I thought he missed a lot of holes. However, he had a very good patience score for me. He definitely was more than willing to wait for the hole to open. He just didn't always seem to find it when it did. But he was definitely willing to do that. But it came down to me where I just don't know where he's going to win regularly. The one thing I'll give him credit for that you said, Rich, I do have a good contact balance score. I think that he was able to absorb some hits and be able to still keep moving fairly well. Now, we know that he's not necessarily going up against the greatest competition in the Sun Belt compared to some of these SEC, other conferences.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
But he ended up with a 65 for me, which is so far it's been on the lower end as far as some of these running backs go. I think he's fine everywhere. I just don't know that there's that one thing that's going to be able to get him, outside of, third guy on the depth chart.
I'm with you there. And the more and more I watched him, I wanted to dig in because I saw, like I said, inconsistencies, especially in pad level type of stuff and in vision. But then I went back and looked at what was he coming in to Louisiana, and he was a wide receiver. He was a 2-star wide receiver recruit from 24/7 Sports. So I think that makes a little bit of sense, and I think can go a long way to kind of explaining why maybe he's up a little bit more of an upright runner and kind of not as consistent because he's only been doing it for the past 4 years. But I think, that's some of that stuff is just hard for people to get if they haven't been doing it their entire life, especially the pad level type of stuff. So we'll see. Elijah Mitchell, I think he offers some good like straight line bursts and stuff like that. But like you had mentioned, I'm not sure. He's not consistent enough in a lot of the aspects for me to go out on a limb for. You know what I mean? He's in a we'll see basket for me. We'll see his landing spot. We'll see, what the potential depth chart looks like at at that landing spot to figure out if he's even going to make a team.
I mean, and that's a lot of these guys here as we get lower down.
Sure.
Like
as we get down the list.
When I say I like Elijah Mitchell, he could easily fall into a situation. Okay, he's clearly a third on the running back depth chart. He's not getting any carries here. Okay, he's gone. But I saw the pathway here. Like what I want to like see out of Rhamondre Stevenson, I saw out of Elijah Mitchell. Like I like his one cut ability to get up there, and I liked his vision. Like you said, you were okay on his vision. I liked his vision. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think he had to like the burst or the speed to get to the outside, or sometimes hit the hole that he wanted to. But when I felt like what he got, he's a nice pound in between the tackles runner that can make that one cut, get up there, take a hit, and still get those yards and still be viable in the passing game, which, again, when I saw his hands, it's easy to say pass or fail, but like when I saw him being used in the passing game, like I really liked his hands, the way he was. But you mentioned he's a former wide receiver. I didn't know that. So now
makes sense.
That makes some more sense as well. But to me, some of these guys, I like these downhill runners that get the hole and then keep going. That's why I saw it of Elijah Mitchell. I see the upside of him being that, again, I mentioned the 15, 20 carry kind of guy for an NFL team, and that offers fantasy football upside to me. So
he's got the build, he's got the the raw size and the hands to be able to potentially do that. So I can understand why you're interested in him.
Say I like him a lot is not the right term. Interested in him is a better way to put it. I could see the path for him to have fantasy success. So obviously James Robinson was fantastic last year. So I'm not saying this. I'm definitely not coming out here because I mentioned his name. He's not James Robinson.
Right. Yeah, they're different. They're different players. But I understand
see that path where they go into. He gets to in training camp. Like, oh, we can use Elijah Mitchell. Like, say he goes to the Falcons. They just signed Mike Davis, right? Who's a really good fit in that system, and they draft a guy like Elijah Mitchell, and maybe they get somebody else that doesn't pan out. And then Mitchell comes in. And he's like, okay, we're going to use a little bit of Mike Davis in the passing game here. We're going to use Elijah Mitchell here in between the tackles. He's a first or a second.
He's a Brian Hill replacement from last year.
Essentially.
Yeah.
There's a path for him.
It's funny that you mentioned James Robinson, though, as like a guy that was undrafted last year, obviously. And, because his teammate, who we're going to talk about later, stylistically is actually kind of similar to James Robinson. So it's funny that you mentioned him, because I do think his teammate kind of resembles him a little bit, but we'll talk about him in the Nerd Herd.
And there's things that he does well. I mean, he was able to pass protect. He's able to pick up the blitz pretty well as well at times. So like that stuff like that's a little bit important to me. That I see him being on the field there for him. Not a special teams guy or anything like that, but he's the kind of guy that I could look at and say, okay, he's never going to be my starter, but he might offer some flex play. Or same thing, kind of go back to the situation where like, oh, hey, this guy's hurt. He can give me a couple games in here.
Yeah.
And those are guys I want to, at the running back position when I'm looking for depth, those are the kind of guys I want to bottom my roster on my taxi squad I could bring up.
And I could actually see him being a special team type of guy to start his career. Kind of maybe put him on kickoff returns or something like that. Wide receiver background. I think he's got enough speed and burst to kind of hit some of those, punt return, kick return, not punt return, but kick return type of things to kind of get on the field, maybe get his feet wet in the NFL. That might actually be a good path for him.
It'd be a first. He didn't play special teams in college.
Yeah, but a former wide receiver, played running back as well.
It's there. I like that. I wish I would have known that looking at his tape, like he was a former wide receiver. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay.
I couldn't put, it was one of those things where it was just something didn't fit exactly in my brain. So I just had to dig in a little bit and figure out what he was coming in. So.
All right, let's move on to our last guy of the night, and that's going to be Chris Evans out of Michigan, 5'11", 219 pounds. This is a guy, if you go way back to 2017, like he was okay in 2017. Mm-hmm. And then some things started to go really wrong for Chris Evans. This was a guy that got in trouble there at school, got kicked out of school, got suspended. He said it was an academic mistake, and then all kinds of, we don't know the truth.
Exactly. He said, she said.
Yeah.
Or he said,
came back on there, stayed in shape, came back in, got reinstated for 2020, but didn't even really play because it was Haskins over him, Charbonnet was over him. So he was on the bottom of the depth chart, but this is a guy, even when I watched him play, I mean, I like his. I'll say a good thing about Chris Evans.
Okay.
I have a feeling it's going to be the same good thing that I have to say. Go ahead. I think there's only one thing.
I liked his ability to catch passes out of the backfield.
Yeah, that's it. I think he's Demetric Felton, but not as good.
Oh, no.
He's got a good build to him.
He's slightly better between the tackles than Felton, but not as good in the passing game than Felton. So it's kind of like, where's the upside with this guy?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple guys I mentioned beforehand that I'm kind of just out on. Chris Evans is one of those guys. Yeah. I'm just not that interested.
I don't think he's going to make an NFL roster.
I would be surprised if he did.
I would be too. There's nowhere where he's a plus player except for maybe, a little bit in the passing game. But even that wasn't special by any stretch of the imagination. It was just like, oh, he's pretty decent here. He does have that good build, but.
Oh, great. I got a good build too.
It ain't getting you anywhere.
It ain't getting me to the NFL.
Might get you on a podcast.
He's just very mad.
Yeah, that's about it. No, I'm glad we're all on the same page here because, I almost didn't want to write down anything for him. Like, he was like, when I watched his games, I was just like.
And I told you, I wrote nothing. I watched the games and I was like, no, I'm not even writing anything up on this guy. There's no way. I don't like anything about him. I like the pass catching, and that is really
because you wrote that, and I literally almost came in. I swear, because I wrote my stuff on him today. I had his name on my sheet. It just said Javonte Williams, Michigan, 5'11", 219 pounds.
You mean not Javonte Williams, Chris Evans.
Chris Evans. I'm sorry. And then under it was just blank, and I was like, okay, this is what I think of Chris Evans.
Turn. Here you go, big blank screen.
I put that poop emoji. Go to a better school. That's a low blow. I mean, could be. Yeah. So that's it. That's our first half of the 2021 running backs. A couple guys in here are somewhat interested. Guys like Demetric Felton. I'm obviously somewhat interested in Wilson. You guys, we all agree Jermar Jefferson, the right scheme, is fit, and Najee Harris is a top 3 back. So some good running backs.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit higher on Rhamondre Stevenson, because he got busted for weed.
For the weed.
Then I think you too, but that's kind of also spot dependent, so it's not like I'm over the moon for him or anything.
Well, can't wait to jump to this next episode and hear you guys talk about why Javonte Pookie Williams is your number 1 running back in this class. I'm excited to hear about all this because I like him too, but he's not my number 1. So let's get into it. The next show. If you're not a Nerd Herd subscriber, make sure you check us out. Subscribe to the Nerd Herd. Get in there today, Dynasty GM. And, of course, check out our Dynasty YouTube channel where all these players we've broken down in each segment individually as well on YouTube. And we do slowly reduce the Nerd Herd episodes, some of those guys individually on YouTube as well to give all our listeners a chance for these rookies down the road. So make sure you get to YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you're up to date on all your rookie content. And check out the Nerd Herd today. Got to get these bonus episodes in.
Yeah, like, subscribe, all that stuff, right?
Alert.
Adios.